On to the latest coming in on the Brexit negotiations. European leaders have unanimously endorsed the Brexit deal, formally sending it to the British Parliament for ratification. The European Council President, the European Commission President, and the Irish Prime Minister and the EU Brexit negotiator holding that press conference. Let's take a listen in.
Hell in this press room. I was wondering if we could move on to heaven. And this is you've done a lot of hard work for the peace process in Northern Ireland. But in order to be canonised, you need a verified miracle. So I was wondering of the DUP.
It's not for me. I'm not the candidate for a science, you know. But maybe Leo, because yeah.
I don't think I'm a candidate for sainthood either. So I think I'll pass on that question too, if you don't mind.
So we'll pass to the next question, James.
Thank you very much, Preben. President Tusk and President Juncker, what is your message to the 48% of British voters who voted to remain in the EU and are still, some of them, campaigning to cancel Brexit? And Mr. Barnier and Mr. Varadkar, what assurances does the EU have, if any, of continued access to British fishing waters after Brexit?
My opinion is absolutely clear that I regret that it was only 48, not 52.
I would like to say to the 48 that they were right.
Sur le... Non, je vais juste répondre à la question précise qui a été posée sur la pêche.
There was a specific question about fisheries, an important sector. One day I went to the west of Denmark to talk to Danish fishermen who catch 50 to 60% of their fish in British waters under the common fisheries policy. So many fishermen there and in Ireland very dependent on British territorial waters. And of course we have to think about exports of UK processed fisheries products to the single market. All that is part of a whole, and we've got to take that into account in the negotiations which will start. If the agreement is finally ratified, we shall give some priority to the conclusion of a new fisheries agreement, providing for access by European fishermen to British waters under conditions to be negotiated. And of course there'll be access for British processed products to the...
So now with the Brexit negotiations reaching that crucial juncture, the final approval as far as the Parliament is concerned, that hurdle still remains. Let's get in further updates now from our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark. Mandy, it seems today is the day when a breakthrough has been reached during those negotiations. A deal is now in place. It now has to be ratified by the UK Parliament. To what extent will that be a challenge?
That will be a massive challenge. You know, it is it's seen as a massive victory for Boris Johnson. Just a few months ago, there was talk that they would never reopen negotiations on this, and the fact that they've got a new agreement is no small feat. But now he has to convince the MPs, and that will be a major challenge. Already Labour leader isn't convinced, but his other main party that he has to get on board is the DUP. Now that is that small political Northern Irish party who said they don't like the deal as it currently stands, and once the deal went through earlier today, they said they still stand by that statement. So, you know, getting the deal to this point has been a great success, but getting it through Parliament will be a major hurdle.
And as the UK Prime Minister has already stated, with or without a deal, October 31 is when Britain is leaving the European Union. Does that stance, is that sentiment also shared by several of his party lawmakers? Because there have been differing views coming in over the last few hours as well.
It isn't a view that the entire Parliament, the Parliament actually skews more Remain than it does hard Brexit. So it isn't an overall view of the Parliament. And of course, they've put through that Ben Act. That means that he simply can't leave without a deal, that he will have to go back to Brussels to ask for an extension if this deal gets voted down. So even though he does say with or without a deal, do or die, it seems very unlikely he can do that.
All right, so that's the complicated mess that the Brexit negotiations have been so far. As Mandy is telling us, even though a deal has been reached today, the major hurdle still remains, that is to get it ratified by the UK Parliament. And as Mandy is telling us, that is going to be a major challenge. So far, the negotiations were not going anywhere. Today is a crucial day. It's been a culmination point in a way of several rounds of negotiations that have taken place between the United Kingdom and the European Union. They've now struck that deal. They're saying the deal is done, but getting it ratified is something that will be closely watched. A major showdown in the UK Parliament is expected on Saturday. That's when that proposal comes up for further deliberation. We're going to leave it there for the moment. Mandy Clark getting us the very latest on that front.